Good morning. I'm Brian Reagan. This is
Tyler Kelly.
And we welcome you to Mornings with Brian and Tyler. Today we are in Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through 8. Tyler.
And he also said to his disciples, there was a certain rich man who had a steward, and had an accusation was brought to him that this man was wasting his goods. So he called him and said to him, "What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your stewardship, for you can no longer be steward." And the steward said within himself, "What shall I do? For my master is taking the stewardship away from me. I cannot dig, I am ashamed to beg. I have resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, that they may receive me into their houses." So he called every one of his master's debtors to him and said to the first, "How much do you owe my master?" And he said, 100 measures of oil. So he said to him, "Take your bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then he said to another, "How much do you owe?" So he said, 100 measures of wheat. So he said to him, "Take your bill and write 80. So the master commanded the unjust steward because he had dealt shrewdly. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in their generation than the sons of light.
All right. So there's a lot going on with this one. A lot of preachers don't understand what's actually happening here. First of all, what does Jesus say? Right? Jesus tells us make friends. Jesus tells us this lesson. But who are we listening to in this parable? There was a certain rich man that he made it. He called his steward to account, and his steward said, "Whoops." Now I don't know what had been going on with the steward. Neither do you. The steward may not have necessarily been bad. I don't know. There actually isn't enough in the parable to put the character of the steward in a, quote, necessarily bad light. Okay? He's been accused of being unjust. His master wants an accounting of the books. And so the guy, whatever the guy has been or hasn't been doing, I know one thing. He has accounts out there that he hasn't been collecting on behalf of his master. But the steward has legal authority to act on his master's behalf. And this goes back to what we talked about in Nehemiah last week. There's a certain point where you can write off debt because you've been living without the money, you've been living without the resources, you've made other profit in other areas. You can write this off and it doesn't hurt you. And so when this steward says, "Hey, how much do you owe?" Well, write it down as this. How much do you owe? Write it down as that. Here's the funny thing. A lot of those guys probably had the number that they changed it to and brought the payment right then so that they could zero out their accounts while this guy was still steward. Because the guy that has, say, $50 in his pocket but owes you 100 or owes you 200, that you come up and you go, "Dude, where's my money?" And he's like, "Dude, I ain't got $200. And so he says, "How much do you have?" And he says, "Look, man, all I've got is 50. And you go, "You know what? Give me the 50 now and I'll forget the 200. And if you say it mean enough, the dude's like, "Here's your 50, bro. Now what? I got what I need. I got some of my stuff back." He gets what he needs, me off of his back, and he gets $150 of his debt is gone. Now some of you are going, "Brother, that's not right." Yeah, but listen to Jesus. Try this. Listen to what Jesus actually says. And the Lord, verse 8, and the Lord commended. He commended the unjust steward because he'd done wisely. He looks at him and says, "Good job, man. Proud of you. That is the kind of guy that I need running my business." Because when his back's against the wall, he takes care of things and he does it in a way that's sharp and timely. Woohoo! But you read this parable time and again, Who holds all the debt in the universe? Jesus. So settle up with Jesus. Ask Jesus to rewrite the account. Ask Jesus. Ask Jesus if there's a way to settle out in the books. Okay? But here's the other lesson. If you owe debt, a lot of times you can negotiate it down to an amount that you do have. And you say, well, but that won't rate as good on my credit. Look, if you miss some payments, it's going to look even worse on your credit. But here's the bigger issue. Get the people off of your behind. Why do you want the creditor riding on your back? If you can settle with them for 40% of whatever they say the original debt was, settle it and go. And don't get caught up in that lie that people are like, as a Christian, you incurred that debt, you need to pay the entire amount. Jesus says the children of this world are wiser than the children of light in this age. Well, and he bases it off of this parable. So learn a lesson where Jesus says that someone did something in such a way that their master said they did a good job. Pay attention to what Jesus says. Learn the lesson. Other thoughts, my brother?
No, sir.
With that, I'm Brian Reagan. This is
Tyler Kelly.
We bid you good day.